Hello, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for joining me today. It's worth taking time out of our procession through the text of A Course in Miracles, which will still be there when we get back. It's worth it taking some time out to visit and revisit some foundational and fundamental ideas here as we go through this material and as you practice spirituality, whatever that actually looks like for you on a day to day, moment to moment basis. There are some key principles here in A Course in Miracles that are worth additional study and that are worth our coming back to over and over again. And I want to address a few of these here today, specifically true forgiveness as the Course teaches it, and the idea of cause and effect. So we'll cover these ideas, and I'm pausing the procession through the text right now to have this dialogue because, well, there are now over, I believe, 1,100 videos on this channel. Most of them have been recorded in the last 3.5 years when I was invited to start teaching A Course in Miracles on Enlightened World Network in January of 2021. That actually was an invitation to do a daily. And well, I've been posting several videos a week since then. That's a lot. In other words, you may have to sift through lots of past videos to find a primer on true forgiveness. So I drop them on occasion. It's worth it. It's worth it because there are those of us that have been studying this material for a long time. This has been my primary spiritual focus, my primary practice for the past 11 years since 2013. And there are those of you who are watching right now who have been practicing this course longer than that. Many of you, I'm sure. But wherever you happen to find yourself, none of us knows on a day to day, moment to moment basis when that proverbial light is going to flash on. We don't really know, do we? We don't know when we're going to get something and it's going to click. That's why this camera and microphone is on, because I don't know when that may be for you, and perhaps it's today. So, forgiveness is the practical and foundational centerpiece of A Course in Miracles. There's really no actually doing the course without it. It's that essential. So it's worth our taking a couple of minutes here to describe what is actually meant by forgiveness as this course teaches it, because it is in stark contrast to forgiveness as the world sees it. In a simplified example, and it's just one example, mind you, forgiveness as the world sees it maintains our sense of separation, our false, erroneous, mistaken sense of separation, keeps it firmly intact. What I mean by that is that forgiveness in the world is pretty much always transactional, like a business transaction. And oftentimes, business transactions are win win situations. A lot of the time, forgiveness as the world sees it is more sinister and insidious than that because it continues to foster a belief in separation. Someone that forgives, according to the world, often feels superior to the one forgiven, and the one forgiven who supposedly has transgressed against the one who's stooping or deigning in their high and mighty, glorious magnificence to forgive this little scumbag, sinner, whatever. Yeah, that's what it appears is that someone's stooping to forgive someone who's beneath them for having done something here on the surface of life that supposedly offended somebody. And what happens here is the sense of separation is kept very firmly intact here, isn't it? The person doing the forgiving often feels high and mighty, and they may even remind the other person of their behavior, their supposedly egregious stuff from time to time. And so if you're the one on the receiving end of this so-called forgiveness, you're made to feel less than, weak and inferior, not to mention the guilt that you may already feel. Someone else can heap it on, and they often do, which of course leads to bitterness, resentment, attack thoughts, and more separation. So here's another fundamental flaw and way that the world thinks about forgiveness. It makes the things that people do real. It makes them real and assumes, falsely assumes, that someone is transgressing against someone else. It is a separation idea. In truth, there's no one else against whom we can transgress. We have no opponent. You have no opponent. Yeah, here in the world and business, you have competition. Sure, we set it up that way. In sporting events and team sporting events, you have opponents. We set it up that way. In a discussion or a debate or a political contest, we have opponents. Made it up. We set it up that way. Ready for something else? Good. I'm glad. That's why you're here, after all. Forgiveness, according to A Course in Miracles, is very different. And it's important that we study and begin to understand this difference. What we're doing as we go forth and study and practice, more importantly, practice, do this course, is we're changing our mind. We're flipping our perception right side up. It is upside down when we see ourselves as separate. This course is righting it. It's flipping it right side up so that we see things as they actually are. And this practice of true forgiveness is foundational and central to this. Central. So, forgiveness is done all in the mind. The beauty of forgiveness, as taught by this course, is you don't have to speak to anybody. You don't have to speak to somebody else. You don't have to write them a long letter or sit down for a 5.5 hour tear-jerking conversation where you spill your guts and bawl. Yeah, you don't have to do that. It's all in the mind. Forgiveness, as taught by this course, recognizes that there is no separation of any kind. We're, in effect, forgiving what our brother, somebody else, did not do. They're not separate from you. So, how can they have offended you? They are you. There's no separate other. Forgiveness, according to this course, acknowledges this. Rather than make what someone does real and then supposedly forgive it, this course operates in the mind at the level of cause, not effect. It overlooks this supposed situation to the truth that your brother never really did anything to you because he is you. You are him, you are her, you are them, you're one, we're all one, and we always have been. A central idea in A Course in Miracles is that of cause and effect. Mind is the cause. The world that we appear to inhabit is the effect. A very helpful way, and this might help to think about this, is that in going to work, changing our mind, in forgiving at the level of cause and not effect, we're looking past the surface level of stuff to the truth of what really is. We forgive what appears in our experience, anything that is not wholly joyous, totally joyous, anything that disturbs you at all, anything that upsets your peace of mind, makes you angry, sad, frustrated, scared, bitter, anxious, and enraged, whatever adjective, any of that, we forgive what appears in our experience, whether it's a person or an event or a feeling or whatever it is. Forgive and release it to the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher. What's appearing in our experience corresponds to something in our unconscious guilt, this deep unconscious guilt that we all feel for believing, thinking that we've separated from God. We have not. You heard that right, and you know it. We have not. What appears in our experience corresponds to some of this unconscious guilt. And when we forgive it at the level of the mind, acknowledging that there is no separation of any kind, and there never has been, which I also include every time I forgive. And there's no set formula for the verbiage that you use, because we do this under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. But this is something that I find very, very helpful, acknowledging that there is not and never has been any separation of any kind. In acknowledging this, we're looking past what appears on the surface of life, where there appear to be 8 billion plus human beings running amok, doing life, and fighting with each other, inevitably. Mind is the cause. The body, the world outside, is an effect. It may be helpful for you to think about a physical ailment, perhaps a disease or something like that. People show symptoms of a disease. And what does modern medicine attempt to treat? But the symptoms, not the cause. The cause of the ailment remains firmly intact when you only treat the symptom. Another symptom will arise. Why? Because the cause has not been dealt with. It has not been forgiven. It has not been released. And it has not been replaced with a different thought system. Therefore, new symptoms arise. You don't get the disease, it continues to recur. That's an example, one that we can all relate to. Now, what happens when you deal with the cause is there are no more ill effects from that cause. There might be another thing that you've got to deal with, right? Because the well of unconscious guilt is deeper than we imagine. After all, it's unconscious. So we forgive what comes up in our lives that is not wholly joyous. Another way of thinking about this that I often use that I think is also helpful to me, and perhaps you'll find this helpful as well, is to think of yourself as sitting in a movie theater, a nice, great big movie theater with comfortable seats, or not. Maybe you have a big, giant movie size bag of popcorn and of soda, or perhaps you are wearing a jacket in the theater because it's wintertime or it's cold, and you snuck a flask in. Oh, I don't know. It's possible, isn't it? Yeah. But whatever the situation may be, whether you're on a date or you're just sitting there checking it out by yourself, or you've got your kids with you, or whatever, you're watching a movie. You're watching one right now. This pixelated image on your screen. And up above the audience is a projector playing the film onto the screen. And what we see on the screen when we think we're separate and we attempt to keep the separation real by thinking that your brother is separate from you and he actually did do something to you, which he did not. We're watching a movie that's painful. Now, there might be some really hot sex scenes in there. I mean, really, you know, there might be some dreamy, blissful tropical vacation scenes, or perhaps you enjoy financial wealth or something, or you have a great relationship. These scenes are always peppered by drama, just like the movies that we watch, which, of course, we think they suck if they're not full of conflict. Well, this is how we've been conditioned to see all of life as separation after separation after separation, full of conflict, warfare, bitterness, and strife, arguing, anxiety, yada, yada, yada. So the movie's not always tranquil and peaceful. You could do a couple of things. You could get up and walk out of the movie theater because the exit sign is clearly marked. You could walk out into the sunshine and stop seeing the movie. If you choose not to do that, you could walk up to the projector house, which you'll find unlocked and unguarded, with another film sitting there, ready for insertion into the projector, a peaceful film, a happy dream. You could choose to replace the film in the projector. When you practice true forgiveness, as this course teaches it, doing it under the guidance of your inner teacher, of course, you're replacing the film. You're treating the cause, not the effect. You're treating the cause of the illness, not simply the symptoms of it. You're treating the essence, not the myriad outward expressions. You're focusing on content and not form. That's this course for you. That is why when you practice true forgiveness according to A Course in Miracles, you don't see things the same ever again, which is what we all deep down want, because we all are on the spiritual path because we want one thing: the peace of God. That is underlying all of it. That is why we're drawn to spirituality. That's why we've all formulated, and likely many, many times, the thought that there's more to it than just gratifying the needs of the physical body. I mean, as nice as last night's dinner may be, or as fun as it is to go work out at the gym, or, take a tropical or a Mediterranean vacation and enjoy the sunlight. There's more to it than that. And we all know this. This thought that has you on the spiritual path is your inner teacher speaking to you. So we forgive, and we come back to forgiving whatever disturbs us on the surface of life. And don't worry about the corresponding guilt. That's a deep unconscious well. All we do is forgive what appears on the surface, and we give our little willingness, just our slight little willingness to do that. The Holy Spirit does the rest. He's aware of what's under the surface. He'll clear that for you. You don't have to worry about that. It's unconscious after all. So we don't have to spend our time trying to figure out what may or may not have happened because, well, actually, it didn't happen. We think that we separated. We did not. Ideas leave not their source. Capital S. Where are you? As the thought of God. I invite and encourage you to go there again and again. If it scares you, well, no problem. We have all run up against this on the spiritual path. Count on it. Count on resistance. Count on these thoughts of denial, thinking, yeah, this thing can't possibly be telling me anything that's good. This course, yeah, no. You can dismiss whatever you want. We all have free will. Yet you're here for a reason. There is a message for you in each and every one of these videos from our inner teacher. Whatever that is, well, you'll know. I don't know what that's going to be. My work is simply to turn on the camera and microphone and share the Holy Spirit with you. So I do hope that you found this kind of primer on cause and effect and true forgiveness handy and helpful in your practice. And to the extent that you have questions, please feel welcome to leave them. Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I mean, what is spirituality but a deep self-inquiry anyway? So quite naturally, questions are going to arise. Now, if you have not subscribed, please do that. Well, I'd love to have you join us. That's the prompt in the corner of your screen here. Click that, you'll be invited to join. And when you do, you'll see several videos every week. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me. I'll speak to all of you again very soon.